This happened in the late summer of 2023. I was 28 and, after a series of bad luck with roommates, decided to move into a tiny, rundown studio apartment in a sprawling, dilapidated complex in upstate New York. It was cheap, and I barely spent any time there as I worked two jobs, a daytime gig at a coffee shop and a night shift as a stalker at a massive 24-hour superstore called MegaMart. My shift at MegaMart ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It was an enormous, cavernous place, practically empty at night, except for the faint hum of the refrigerated sections and the occasional cleaning crew. My job was to push towering pallets of inventory from the back stockroom, break down the boxes, and fill the shelves. It was mind-numbingly repetitive, but it paid the bills. The missing stock. The weirdness started in the frozen foods section. Every night, I was responsible for stocking the ice cream freezers. For 3 nights in a row, I'd bring out a pallet of a specific brand of strawberry cheesecake ice cream, stock about 24 tubs, and leave the remaining boxes for the next shift. But each morning, when I checked my numbers, the inventory would be off. Exactly 13 tubs would be missing from the pallet. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was consistent. I assumed a new coworker was either stealing or miscounting. I started taking photos of the pallet before and after my shift, documenting the exact number of boxes. On the 4th night, I brought out the pallet of ice cream, took my before photo, and started stocking. I worked my way down the aisle, the freezer doors periodically whooshing open and shut. After about 20 minutes, I finished stocking and took my after photo. I checked my phone. The difference was still 13 tubs. But this time, I saw something else in the after photo that wasn't in the before shot. Reflected in the shiny stainless steel of one of the empty freezer doors, just barely visible, was a pair of white tennis shoes peeking out from behind the pallet of ice cream. Someone had been standing there, hiding while I was working. I spun around. The aisle was empty. I looked behind the pallet. Nothing, just the cold, sterile floor. I walked to the end of the aisle and peered around the corner into the next section. Empty. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. This wasn't a coworker. This was someone deliberately hiding, watching me. The shopping list. I started working with a heightened sense of paranoia. I'd constantly glance over my shoulder, convinced I was being watched. A few nights later, I was stocking cereal in aisle 7. I pushed my pallet down the empty aisle, the wheels squeaking loudly in the silence. As I passed the baking aisle, I noticed a shopping cart parked directly in the middle of the aisle. It was filled with items, but not random items. It was a precise collection: 2 loaves of whole wheat bread, a gallon of 2% milk, a dozen organic eggs, a jar of peanut butter, and a specific brand of sparkling water I drank. It was my grocery list, the exact items I bought for myself every week, always at this particular MegaMart. I walked over to the cart, my hands trembling. Tucked into the handle was a small, handwritten note on a piece of graph paper. It said, "The strawberry cheesecake is for dessert. You always forget to buy dessert. Mark." My name is Mark. I had only ever given my full name to HR and my manager. I never used it on social media, and my coffee shop uniform just had my first initial. I grabbed my radio and tried to call my manager. "Base, this is Mark. I have an anomaly in aisle 7. Static. My radio is dead. I looked down at it. The battery was missing. I abandoned the pallet and ran for the back stockroom, where the employee entrance was located. I had to get out of there, but as I burst through the double doors, I slammed right into something solid. It wasn't a person. It was a life-sized cardboard cutout of myself. It was me in my MegaMart uniform holding a stack of frozen pizzas. It was taken from a security camera feed. The angle was high, looking down from the ceiling. The cardboard was damp, as if it had been left outside in the rain. I spun around, my heart pounding. I pushed past the cutout and ran for the employee door, fumbling with my keys. But the electronic lock on the door just clicked uselessly. Voice from the ceiling speaker. "The door is locked, Mark. Your shift isn't over yet. The new stock needs to go out before the customers arrive." The voice was distorted, robotic, like the kind of automated voice you hear on a customer service line, but it sounded like it was coming directly from the store's intercom system. I looked up. There was a small, circular service hatch in the ceiling, directly above the stockroom. It was open. Inside the blackness of the hatch, a single pale eye was visible, staring down at me. I heard the whirring sound of a pallet jack coming down the main aisle. Whoever it was, they were bringing out more stock for me to put away. I grabbed a utility knife from a workbench and started frantically trying to pry open the back door. It was no use. The electronic lock was too strong. I ran for the emergency exit, the one that triggers a loud alarm but would get me outside. As I approached it, the lights in the stockroom began to flicker violently. The large ventilation fans in the ceiling stopped, then started again with a groan. The cardboard cutout of me started to slowly rotate on its stand until it was facing me. The aftermath. I hit that emergency bar and ran into the alley. The alarm shrieked. I didn't stop until I reached the main road, where I flagged down a passing semi-truck. The police arrived about 15 minutes later. They found the emergency door open, the alarm blaring, and the stockroom empty. No pallet, no shopping cart, no cardboard cutout. The entire store was silent and still. However, when they checked the ventilation system in the stockroom, they found a hidden compartment. Inside was a makeshift nest, a small sleeping bag, a portable induction burner, and dozens of empty tubs of strawberry cheesecake ice cream. They also found a custom-built miniature drone equipped with an infrared camera and a tiny mechanical arm. The drone was designed to latch on to the overhead racking system of the MegaMart. It had been flying silently above me for weeks, tracking my movements, inventorying my purchases, and even swapping my radio battery. The custodian of the MegaMart was never caught. The police identified him as a former employee of a company that installed these specific automated racking systems in big box stores. He had been fired 5 years ago for unauthorized modifications to his system in another state. He had essentially been living in the vast, unseen infrastructure of the MegaMart for months, undetected by the store's regular security, treating me like his personal stalker. I quit both my jobs the next day. I moved back to my hometown and found work at a small independent bookstore where the only inventory I handle is paper. Sometimes, when I'm in a large modern grocery store, I'll find myself looking up at the high ceilings, searching for the shadows between the massive ventilation ducts and the steel beams. I wonder if anyone else in the night shift, stocking shelves in a silent, empty store, ever feels like the items on their pallet are being counted not by a machine, but by someone who knows exactly what they'll be having for dessert.